You ready, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to the open session here, public comment before closed session. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Bates. Councilmember Bates. Councilmember Jimenez.
Presente.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Martinez.
Presente.
Vice Mayor Martinez. Okay, Councilmember McLaughlin.
Here, I think Eduardo did say yes, he's here.
Okay, Councilmember McLaughlin. Councilmember Willis. Absent. Mayor Butt.
Here.
Okay, and let me just go back to Councilmember Bates. Okay. And then Vice Mayor Martinez.
Oh,
Unmute yourself, Eduardo. There you go.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, would you read the closed session agenda items, please?
During closed session, council will discuss the following items: public employee performance evaluation, title city clerk, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Sprawdeff et al. Versus City of Richmond, the Giddyville Rancheria of California et al. Versus the United States of America et al., North Coast Rivers Alliance et al., Point Melody Alliance et al. Versus City of Richmond versus Thomas K. Butt. In conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, there are 3 cases. And that's the agenda for closed session.
Okay, do you have speakers?
I do not see any request to address the council.
Wow, it's a miracle.
Few people, a couple of people.
Okay, they just raised their hand.
We have 3 speakers at the moment. The first, there will be Annie Wright, Yvonne, Lisa Fulton, and Ann.
Hi, I just wanted to clarify, are these for public comments or just for the closed session items?
Yes, this is just for the closed session items.
Okay, thank you. And public speaking will be then, could you
At the-
tell, for
yes,
non-agenda?
On
I'm
open
sorry.
forum on the regular city council agenda later on.
Okay, for non-agenda items. Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
Have a good closed session.
The next speaker is Ann. Ann? Okay, looks like she lowered her hand. There are no more speakers.
Okay, thank you. With that, we are adjourned to closed session.
Matt, they went to the closed session.
All right.
Thank you, KCRT.
Hi, this is Richard from KCRT Television. Is Mark Northcross there? Mark Northcross, are you there?
And I passed my test and got my certificate for my nonprofit. I saw that on LinkedIn. Thank you. Glad you noticed.
You're a nonprofit now?
No, I went ahead and furthered my knowledge and got a certificate. Oh, you got.
I see three. Do we have a fourth? Hey, Nat, what happened? You didn't pay your electric bill this month? You got no
I'm
light-
okay.
got no lights on. Okay, I see a quorum. Madam Clerk, you ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, welcome everyone to we'll start tonight with the special meeting of the Richmond Housing Authority. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Bates,
Present.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Presente.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Vice
Yes.
Vice Chair,
Inez.
Vice Chair Martinez,
Here.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Here.
Commissioner Willis,
Here.
Lieutenant Commissioner Scott,
This is Richard. I called her 5 minutes ago, but she's not here yet.
okay, and Chair Butt.
Here. Okay, thank you. Would you roll the public comment instructional video, please?
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted via Zoom pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Urgency Measure Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. The mayor will call upon council members, staff, and other guest speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Council members, staff, and guest speakers participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Community members participating via Zoom wishing to speak should use the raised hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the mayor or city clerk will call upon them at the appropriate time. Community members will have up to 2 minutes to speak, 3 minutes for public hearings. After the speaker's time expires, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Community members participating via phone will be called upon to speak by the last 4 digits of their phone number. Public input and participation are of the utmost importance to the City of Richmond City Council. Therefore, it is important for public speakers to be ready to address the council when called upon. Public speakers are requested to state their names and city of residence, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received before and during the meeting in accordance with the COVID-19 public comment guidelines printed on the meeting agenda will be entered into the record and published at the clerk's office webpage. If authors of written correspondence would also like to speak on the item, they should raise their hand when prompted by the mayor, and the city clerk will call upon them at the appropriate time. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. The meeting can be seen on KCRT's TV channel and is being streamed on Zoom, YouTube, and KCRT.com. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the City of Richmond City Council.
Debido a COVID-19, esta reunión se llevará a cabo a través de Zoom en conformidad con las provisiones de la medida de urgencia del gobernador de la Ley de la Asamblea 361, que suspende ciertos requisitos de la Ley Brown. El alcalde llamará a los concejales, a los empleados de la ciudad y a otros invitados a hablar por nombre. Por favor, hable claramente y diga su nombre antes de dar su comentario. Se recuerda a los concejales, empleados de la ciudad y otros invitados participando a través de Zoom con sus cámaras encendidas que sus actividades son visibles al público. Miembros de la comunidad participando a través de Zoom que deseen hablar deberían de usar la función levantar la mano, en inglés raise hand, o marcar *9 si están participando por teléfono. El alcalde y la secretaria municipal llamarán a los oradores en el momento apropiado. Miembros de la comunidad tendrán hasta 2 minutos para hablar y 3 minutos para temas de audiencias públicas. Después de que se expire el tiempo de orador, se le bajará la mano y el micrófono será silenciado. Miembros de la comunidad participando por teléfono serán llamados para su turno usando los últimos 4 dígitos de su número de teléfono. Los comentarios y la participación del público son de suma importancia para el Consejo Municipal. Por lo tanto, es importante que los oradores públicos estén listos para dar sus comentarios al Consejo Municipal cuando sean llamados. Se pide que los oradores públicos indiquen sus nombres y ciudad de residencia, pero proveer dicha información es voluntario. Comentarios escritos recibidos antes y durante la reunión, de acuerdo con las reglas designadas para comentario público durante el COVID-19, imprimidos en la agenda de la reunión, serán ingresados en el registro y se publicarán en la página web de la Secretaría Municipal. Si los autores de la correspondencia escrita también desean hablar sobre el tema, deberían levantar la mano cuando sea pedido por el alcalde, y la Secretaría Municipal los llamará en el momento apropiado. Se realizará una votación nominal para todos los puntos de acción. La reunión se podrá ver en el canal de televisión de KCRT y también se transmitirá en Zoom, YouTube y kcrt.com. Gracias por participar en una reunión de Consejo Municipal de la ciudad de Richmond.
Okay, thank you. The next item is statement of conflict of interest. Does anyone have one? Don't see any. Next item is report from the executive director, Nanette.
Good evening, KCRT. Can you share the screen, please? Thank you very much. Next slide, please. The RHA is pleased to welcome Nicole, Sarah, Alton, Jefferson, and Melvin Thomas to the RHA team. Currently, we have pending recruitments for senior resident housing manager and resident housing manager, and you can view those recruitments on the City of Richmond website and apply for those who are interested. Thank you to the Human Resource Department and the City Manager's Office for continued support. Next slide, please. Lots of things happening at Nevin Plaza. RHA and EAH, the developer, continue to move forward with the scheduled rehabilitation of Nevin Plaza Phase 1. EAH just submitted today for a 4% tax credit and CIDLAC joint applications. Meetings continue with residents and the Housing Advisory Commission for updates. Meetings also continue with the Design Review Board and the Arts Committee. We continue to develop the design of both the interior and exterior of the building. Next slide. As many of you know, Hacienda is well under construction and rehabilitation, and it's due to be completed in the fall of this year. There's ongoing outreach to former residents, and the wait list is due to open in the early summer, and I'll keep you apprised of that. Lease-up is scheduled to begin in October of this year. Really exciting news. Nystrom Village, development of the exclusive rights to negotiate agreement with McCormick Barron and Richmond Neighborhood Housing Services is in progress. There's ongoing maintenance, repair, and rehabilitation of vacant units. We want to occupy as many units as possible because we get funded based on our occupancy. On April 9th, in collaboration with the City Manager's Office, there will be a spring cleanup at Nystrom Village. So all that are interested in volunteering, you can contact me or Nicole or Alton in the office. The RHA Housing Corporation and Easter Hill Housing Corporation will have its quarterly meeting on Friday, March 18th at 10 a.m. and at 10:45 respectively. And that's all I have to report. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. That's what I like, is good news. Any commissioners wish to have questions or comments on this? Okay, the next item is agenda review, and I understand from the clerk that that there's been a request to remove item M1 from the consent calendar.
Yes.
Are there any other agenda changes? Okay, the next item is Housing Authority Open Forum. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on anything that's on the Housing Authority consent calendar. Not the regular city council consent calendar. Do you have any speakers?
Looks like we have two.
Before the speakers start, I just wanted to let you know, this is Commissioner Scott and I am present.
Thank you.
Okay.
I actually have a point of information.
Yeah.
Is the intent of removing M1 because we are going to start meeting in public?
It was requested by the public to discuss it. And no.
Yeah, we're going to discuss it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comments?
Yes, we have three speakers.
And the three speakers are Lisa Fulton, Joe Pulio, and Lisa Johnson. You will have up to 2 minutes to address the council. Lisa, you may begin.
Hello, this is Lisa Fulton. I'm a Contra Costa resident. I actually live in Briones. I am, for the last, 14 years, I have been involved with animal rescue and in particular community cats. So I have a lot of experience trapping in Richmond neighborhoods. And so I have been trying to get, trapped cats to be spayed and neutered. And the reason I'm making a comment tonight is that the Animal Services has drafted an agreement for animal services for the 18 cities in Contra Costa. And I urge you to take a close look at this agreement because it's woefully inadequate to address the needs of the Richmond communities where there are cats, and the population of these cats is exploding, and us rescuers on the ground really are desperate, and we need help in terms of increased spay and neuter surgeries offered by Animal Services. And also, I would ask you to consider that Animal Services reinstate some of the programs that they have cut or eliminated. The Pinole shelter was closed, which puts a hardship on many people who don't live near there. But the main thing is to ramp up the spay-neuter surgeries. Right now, they're only doing 4 cats per day, 4 days a week. They used to do 20 cats. And so I don't see any reason to not go to at least status quo ante prior to COVID. We really need those services. And thank you so much. Good night.
I want to remind other speakers, this is the Housing Authority Open Forum. So this is limited to issues that involve the Housing Authority and items that are on the Housing Authority agenda. So go ahead and call the next speaker.
The next speaker is Joe Pulio. Joe, you may begin.
Thank you. I'm not commenting on the Housing Authority. I tried to be recognized 3 weeks ago unsuccessfully, and this was a test to see if I am connected. Thank you.
Okay. The next speaker is Lisa Johnson. Lisa, you may begin.
Hi, before you start the timer, can the clerk please clarify if this is when I should speak on item M1?
No.
No, not yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
that item will come.
I'll defer to them. Thank you.
We'll vote on the consent calendar and then we'll come back to item M1.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no other speakers.
Okay, that brings us to the consent calendar minus item M1. Is there a motion to approve it?
I move the item.
Okay,
Minus
motion by
M1.
Martinez. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Bates. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bates,
Yes.
Commissioner Menace,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
Yes.
Lieutenant Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
and Chair Butt.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous.
So now we'll take up item M1. I don't know that we need a staff report. Everybody knows what this is about. I think we'll just, if there are public speakers on it, we'll call public speakers. You can read the item, Madam Clerk, and then we'll call the public speakers.
Okay, so item M1 is to adopt a resolution requiring the continued use of teleconferencing for the meetings of the boards of commissioners of the Richmond Housing Authority pursuant to the provisions of AB 361. And Ursula, you may call the speaker.
We have one speaker currently, and that's Lisa Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. The community is beyond frustrated and feels completely disrespected by the fact that several council members and other appointed commission and board members routinely keep their Zoom cameras off for most or all of a meeting. Many in the community believe this is a violation of the public's trust and Brown Act. There is simply no way for staff to legally determine continuity of quorum when there is not a quorum of elected or appointed members whose cameras remain live and are sitting in front of them. When a camera is off, staff has no way to appropriately determine where that person actually is or what they are doing and if they are actually engaged, or if they're illegally conferring with people in the room or on the phone, thereby making a mockery of our public meetings. We now see live in-person events being scheduled in city council chambers and being advertised on social media. One example is scheduled for April 7th. Why is this allowed, yet our city council still refuses to meet in person? This underscores the public's sense of frustration and disrespect. I am respectfully requesting that the public please get an update tonight with the proposed timeline for public meetings to resume. The public doesn't understand why a hybrid format at a minimum couldn't be adopted, whereby elected and appointed members plus critical staff are present in person and the public or consultants participating via Zoom. Moreover, Contra Costa County health policies allow for this. If there is apprehension to adopt a hybrid Zoom format, then can you at least please start requiring that cameras remain on at all times, as has routinely been asked by members of the public for nearly 2 years now, with no explanation provided as to why this has not been policy since inception. If someone needs to get up and go to use the restroom, they can keep their camera on the same exact way that KCRT remains on the council, planning commission, or any other board in a live meeting, and someone needs to step away. The standards of decorum should be held the same, regardless of whether or not it's on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have an additional speaker. And again, as a reminder, we are on item M1 on the Housing Authority meeting. Mark Wassberg.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes.
The city council is too much of a coward, man, to face the public. All they want to do is hide behind a microphone so they can talk their garbage, and we have to put up with this nonsense. You know, you're gonna have sooner or later, you're gonna have to face the public and start opening up the city council meetings because everybody's just dying to get in front of you people. I've been seeing people out on the street says, Mark, when are you gonna get in front of their city council? I said, I'm just waiting for them to reopen the city council again. And you're gonna see it hit the fan, especially during this time of year. So you guys ain't full of nobody, man. Because I remember years ago when that Cycle McLaughlin, when she was mayor, she wanted to have the city council meetings around about 1 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody was at work, so nobody could attend the meetings. You ain't fooling nobody, you psycho. I yield my time.
Any other public speakers?
Yes, we have 2 additional speakers.
Okay.
The next speaker is Don Gosney. Don, you may begin.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, I appreciate the need and desire to hold in-person meetings. For city council, that may be appropriate, but for your commissions, boards, and especially your task force, going with the Zoom as an option may be preferable to the groups there, especially the ones where some people can't stand to be in the same room with the others. When you have people like on our task force that say it is unsettling, it's a traumatic event to see the face of somebody on a Zoom meeting, that poses a problem for us. So it's something to consider. Take it on a case-by-case basis for each of the different task forces, commissions, boards, and such like that, and then just offer as a hybrid, for instance, for the city council. Although we would love to see all the council members there at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jessie Turan.
Hi, my name is Jessie Turan, and I'm one of the residents of Ryden Road, one of the unhoused residents of Ryden Road. And I just wanted to say that back in December, when we started attending the city council meetings, when the residents started attending the city council meetings, our one request, our only request, our most important priority was getting the management company that has squandered all of the money that was meant to go to our benefit in terms of housing and getting us out of here. We requested that that their contract not be renewed, and that they be gotten rid of as soon as possible and replaced with something else, anything else, or not replaced at all. We don't care, just get them out of here. They are deceptive, they're lying, and they're thieves. And the city council agreed. I submitted a detailed description of the many ways that our money had been misappropriated and misused. And it was agreed, the violations were egregious, they were blatant. Things like getting food brought in from a catering company in Palo Alto and having it delivered by Uber, that kind of thing. And that's what the money that was intended to benefit the homeless was spent on. And yet, although the management company's contract was supposed to expire yesterday, they're still here. They don't seem to be going anyplace. And from what I hear, their contract is being renewed, or is Lena Velasco, I believe, is attempting to renew the contract. I don't understand why or how this is happening. My feeling is keep your word. Keep your word. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Joe Pulio. Joe, you may begin.
Remember, this is the Housing Authority agenda.
Oh, okay. I yield.
Okay.
Okay. There are no further speakers.
Okay, so this is a resolution to enable us to continue meeting electronically for just for the next 30 days. So
Move the approval.
okay, motion by Bates. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Johnson. Call roll, please, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Bates,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin, sorry,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott, Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
okay, thank you, and Chair Butt.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous.
So the Housing Authority meeting is now adjourned, and we will move to the regular meeting of the Richmond City Council. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Councilmember Bates,
Present.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Presente.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Martinez,
Here.
Councilmember McLaughlin,
Here.
Councilmember Willis,
Here.
and Mayor Butt. Mayor Butt.
Yes. And that brings us to agenda review. The clerk has advised me that staff has requested to continue item W4A and to withdraw item U. Are there any other changes requested for the agenda? Councilmember McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Due to a need for a bit more time to analyze some new information in regard to item X2 and still make the 30 days needed to call a public hearing, I move that we table item X2 to a special meeting on this Friday, March 18th at 3 p.m.
I second that.
Well, I'm not going to be there, so I'm at Yosemite at a LGC Civic Well conference. So we have a motion on the floor.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I suggest that another date be consummated so we can have a full participation.
The only problem is we can't go past Friday to still have the 30 days for the public hearing.
Well, actually, the way to do this is it's a request from Councilor McLaughlin to table item X2. And as chair, I'm going to call that out of order. But if she wants to make a motion to bring it to a vote, then I don't think you need to make a new motion. But I think to do this right, that's what has to happen. So is there a second?
There was a second to my motion.
Yes.
Second by Councilmember Jimenez.
Who was the second?
Councilmember Jimenez.
Jimenez, okay. Well, let's call for a vote.
Councilmember Bates.
No.
Councilmember Jimenez.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
No.
Vice Mayor Martinez.
Yes.
Councilmember McLaughlin.
Yes.
Councilmember Willis.
Yes.
And Mayor Butt.
No.
The motion passes with Councilmember Bates and Johnson voting no, and Mayor Butt voting no.
Okay. So are there any other changes to the agenda? Okay, that brings us to item S, report from the city attorney. Final decisions made in closed session. City attorney, are you available? Anybody know where the city attorney is?
I'm trying.
Okay.
Dave, I think you just put yourself back on mute.
Let's go to the next item.
Is it working now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So the closed session items was the litigation involving Mayor Butt. We gave a status report. There was no reportable action taken. There was a second item involving the evaluation of the city clerk. That item was not discussed is deferred to a later time. And there was an item on Point Melati. We gave a discussion of various legal issues related to that, and there was no reportable action taken. Those were the three items.
Okay, thank you. Next is a report from the city manager.
Good evening, Mayor Budd and members of the City Council. We would like to invite Richmond community members to our community budget meetings. They are scheduled to commence tomorrow, March 16th at noon. I'll say that one more time since Dave and Gabino are getting acquainted. Tomorrow at March 16th at noon, we're going to commence our community budget workshops. The second one is scheduled on Thursday, March 24th at 5:30 p.m., followed by March 31st at 5:30 p.m. If you would like additional information, please email community_budget@ci.richmond.ca.us or feel free to call the city manager's office at 510-620-6512. Again, 510-620-6512. We look forward to receiving input from members of the public regarding our proposed city budget, as well as the American Rescue Plan funding and how that can be allocated as we concurrently commence with the community needs assessment. There will also be an opportunity to provide information on other matters facing the city of Richmond, and we look forward to residents participating.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to open forum for public comment. Would you call the speakers, please?
Yes, we currently have.
If people spoke about non-housing authority items during the housing authority open forum, then they don't get a second shot at it this time.
Okay, our first three speakers are Mark Wassberg, Deborah Bayer, and Lisa Johnson. Mark, you may begin. Mark?
Now you hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the other day I went out to Ryden Road and I took pictures and filmed all these abandoned vehicles there. That place is a mess. That's no homeless campment. You got a bunch of lowlifes who don't want to go out and get a job just sitting there. Garbage is everywhere. Abandoned vehicles with no registration or anything. And the Richmond PD has every right to tow those vehicles. And across the street, there's a big sign saying, "We are hiring." But anybody from that, all those homeless people, did they go across the street and try to fill an application out? No, because they're too damn lazy to do it. That place is a mess. You got people walking their dogs. They have to smell the piss and the garbage, and all these cycles are living there. Then I went over to Castro Street, where they had now that's a homeless campment. It's the same garbage over there. These people don't want to work. They don't want to do nothing. But it's the Richmond City Council, the RPA, McLaughlin, who's feeding this filth and garbage among our city. Supporting these people not to go out and work, to live for free, to live like squalor. They're living like in a third world country. This is what McLaughlin and our RPA is going to do to Richmond. They want to make it a welfare city. And the Richmond Chamber of Commerce are after the RPA now. They are going to destroy the RPA. I just read it in Butts e-form. And in a couple more days, I'm going to release a half-hour video showing how worthless and corrupt the RPA is and what they're going to do to the city. It'd be Gil McLaughlin all over again if you put that idiot as mayor, Maguado, so you vote for me for mayor, and I'll make sure I'll clean that crap up.
Your time has expired. The next speaker is Deborah Bayer. Deborah, you may begin.
Thank you. This is Debbie Bayer. I'm from Richmond. And I want to just speak to the housing report, the annual housing report, because I think that's on the consent calendar, and this is where I should speak to it. So interrupt me if it's not, if I'm wrong. And I want to just thank the staff for preparing it. And it was really interesting to read what units, housing units are perfectly, and how many are currently under construction, how many are permitted. And it's pretty clear that there's currently under constructions, there's a bit more above moderate income units than low, very low or moderate incomes. I think the permitting process is more towards a 50-50 split. But to me, what is interesting is that the moderate, low, the labels low, moderate, above moderate are based on the Contra Costa County average medium income, which is twice, it's about $123,000 a year, which is twice what Richmond's annual medium income is. So it's skewed toward looking toward saying that there are more above moderate houses based on that higher income. And I'd really like to see a plan for how we get more affordable housing. I noticed that the number of houses currently being proposed are dwarfed by the developments planned at Point Melati, which are all going to be above moderate income. So thank you. I just wanted to talk to that.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lisa Johnson. Lisa, you may begin.
Good evening. I just wanted to give a special shout out and note of gratitude to city staff who finally closed off the public owned lot next to the shuttered cafeteria building over here at the port. As some of you know, it's been a constant site of illegal dumping and other nefarious activities. And there was one point of ingress and egress which had not yet been blocked off. And somebody came upon somebody illegally dumping early in the morning a couple of weeks ago. That truck started fleeing. They ultimately cut off a person driving down Canal Boulevard, crashed into that vehicle, proceeded to drive down the wrong side of the road, facing traffic in the wrong direction, driving head on to traffic, and then cut over the railroad crossing and sped away. This could have resulted in a death, if not more than one death that day. And so finally, city staff came and closed off that lot. And I just wanted to express my gratitude for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was our last speaker.
Okay, so that brings us to the consent calendar. Is there a motion?
I move the item.
Second.
A motion by Martinez, second by Johnson. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bates,
Yes.
Councilmember Jimenez,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember McLaughlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Willis,
Yes.
and Mayor Butt.
Yes.
The vote is unanimous.
Next item is item X1. Would you read that, please?
Yes, I will. Hold on one second. Item X1 is to discuss the City of Richmond's draft fee waiver and partnership policies and provide direction on the next steps prior to policy adoption.
So is there a staff report?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor Butt, Vice Mayor Martinez, and City Council members. My name is LaShonda White. I'm the Interim Director for Library and Community Services. And I am here tonight with my colleagues, Rajana Maharaj, who is the Deputy Director for Community Services Recreation. And we also have Hope Littell, who's Senior Accountant, who is present to also answer questions. KCRT, if you don't mind sharing the PowerPoint, I would greatly appreciate it. So as they are doing that, The Community Services Department Recreation Division recognizes the value of partnering with outside organizations to provide services that benefit the Richmond community, to provide support to organizations that provide a community service, and to create an equitable process. Staff is bringing forth a draft fee waiver policy for determining when event-related fees can be waived, as well as a partnership policy to expand or enhance the services provided to Richmond residents. All right. So wait just one moment while KCRT is bringing. That's okay. But I'll just keep going and I'll, oh, perfect. So staff has done, as they're still bringing this up, staff has done a lot of work to collect information and data, and we are really pleased to bring a draft to you tonight. And this is a draft. Both policies are drafts, and we are really looking forward to feedback from all of you to help us make decisions on how the fee waiver policy, as well as the partnership policy, can move forward and best benefit our community. So the background in terms of what we've done or what recreation is about. Recreation is a steward over facilities, parks, and funding for programs and services. Thank you, KCRT. If you could go to slide 2, please. And slide 2 is just a picture, some pictures. The next slide, please. Back, one back. Oh, well, I had a series of pictures that were showing some of our wonderful events that we've had, some of the great partnerships, and just to highlight why it's so important for us to do this work. So here's just some pictures. It's the people, the places. We want to make sure we're providing services, the best services to our Richmond residents. And so I just wanted to capture that visually for all of you. Next slide, KCRT. So recreation strives to provide that exceptional service in terms of stewarding facilities, parks, and funding for programs and services. Historically, recreation charges fees for programs and facility park usage to help cover the cost of providing such services to the community. Charging fees is a standard practice in the recreation and park sector when individuals, private groups, government, or nonprofit groups wish to reserve and exclusively utilize public facilities. So we realize that because of the increase in the request for fee waivers, the need to memorialize partnerships that are existing and new ones that we want to enter into, that we needed to have formal policies and procedures to allow us to do that. And we wanted to make sure we received council and community feedback. And so we're really excited once again about bringing this forward for a first draft review. Next slide. So the process that we went through is we did a lot of research. We looked at a number of jurisdictions from local jurisdiction, examples of their fee waiver or partnership policies. We being recreation staff are a part of a regional meeting, which includes various local organizations. And so we've asked them for their partnership and fee waiver policies. We realize we are not alone in this effort of trying to formalize something. We've looked outside at other jurisdictions such as Denver and Colorado Springs, Colorado. We've looked at Kissimmee, Florida. We've looked at California cities such as Rio Vista and Sassoon and Lathrop. And so got a lot of really great ideas. You see a lot of similarities between partnership policies and fee waiver policies, but we also wanted to put our own stamp on those. We've had internal meetings, so with recreation staff as well as finance staff to talk about and go through and discuss these drafts. We realize that this, once again, is a promising practice that is really important for us to institutionalize here in the city of Richmond. And we want to make sure that our policies and the fees that we are charging are in alignment, that both of these policies are in alignment with the master fee schedule. So what we are doing is, once again, bringing these drafts to council tonight for feedback. We'll be doing more, providing more opportunities for feedback in the upcoming months. But we also want to, when we come back in April, there are some slight changes that we want to make to the master fee schedule. And we will bundle all of that with the final policies, as well as the updates to the master fee schedule corrected fees. Next slide. So when we brought the master fee schedule to council back in November initially, there was lots of conversation from council about the desire to do a partnership policy and a fee waiver policy. And what we asked for was a little time to do some research and gather some numbers so that we could provide enough data to city council so that you understood how we have been waiving fees in the past and what the financial impact of that is. So while we understand the importance of providing enhanced services to our community and providing opportunities for organizations to have spaces for events and maybe long-term partnerships with organizations, we also know that it does cost the city of Richmond to run facilities. It costs for us to manage facilities. It costs for staff to program these facilities and spaces. And so we wanted to show the city council and provide a report on historically on how much fees we have collected or could have collected by fiscal year, how much we have discounted, which has come via fee waivers. It could have been 25%, 50% per the master fee schedule, or it could have been greater, up to 100%. And then what revenue was actually received by the city of Richmond about recreation. And so this shows you 4 fiscal years going back to fiscal year 16-17. And as an example, you'll see that and in attachment number 2, I believe it's attachment 2 in the report, there's more detail for each of these fiscal years based on type of organization, whether that be government, community-based organization, in City of Richmond organization versus outside organization. But it tells you how much per our rental fee application we could have collected, tells you how much we actually discounted the use, and then what we collected. So you can see over 4 years, and we did not have good data. You see the data for fiscal year 1920 is relatively low, or the amount of revenue, but that is because of COVID. And so the request for facilities stopped as of March. And then in 2021, 22, there wasn't a lot of requests for facility usage. And so we don't really have good data for those years. And so you can see that we could have collected $640,000 over 4 years. We discounted over $461,000. And so all that came into the city coffers was a little bit over, was almost $180,000. Next slide. So want to jump into the fee waiver policy, and I'm going to walk us through the fee waiver policy and then jump to the partnership policy, and then allow us time for questions, comments, concerns. So the fee waiver policy, the purpose is to establish a fiscally responsible guidelines to equitably evaluate and consider fee waiver requests for one-time events and temporary uses of both city facilities and parks. So the purpose of the fee waiver isn't for long-term partnerships. That's what the partnership policy is for. But if organizations, entities want to rent Nickel Park for an event, or the senior center for an event, or maybe short-term usage, this is what the fee waiver policy is for. We are establishing 4 different types of categories of organizations or entities that can apply for fee waivers, and they are listed here. So intergovernmental cooperation, so that's other governmental agencies, whether that be the county, the school district, nonprofit organizations, those who have 501c3 tax status, official City of Richmond partners, and those are organizations that are coming through our partnership policy and have an approved partnership policy with us, and then City of Richmond co-sponsored events. So there are times where we want to sponsor or work collectively or collaboratively with an outside organization to do an event. For purposes of the fee waiver policy, the definition of fee waiver is the granting of a reduction or dismissal of a required fee normally charged for the use of a facility or park. So it could range from Right now, we actually, per our master fee schedule, allow nonprofits to get a 25% discount and governmental entities to get a 50% discount. So this fee waiver could be anything above that up to 100%. So partial or full fee waiver. Next slide. Once again, here are the 4 organizations and 4 types of organizations that are eligible in terms of what we're proposing. And there is additional definitions and information in the policy. Next slide. Eligible uses. So it's pretty open in terms of if organizations are wanting to do sporting, cultural, kind of community events, they can request a fee waiver. And they, the fee waiver is eligible for application fees or for our maybe special permit fees, and then the fees that we charge for the actual uses or rental of the facility or park. And in the policy that was the draft, we had a blank here in terms of how much organizations could receive within a 12-month period. Our recommendation after further conversation and discussion with staff would be maybe up to $3,000, but we definitely are open to that. We feel like 1,000 is too little. Of course, 10,000 is too much, and that is the signing authority for the city manager to be able to have something not go to city council for approval. So we think $3,000 sounds like a reasonable amount to max for organizations to be able to request fee waivers. Next slide. There are a number of ineligible uses, so that there are ineligible fees, and those are listed here. So it does cost for us to have staff open spaces and be present at events. And so, you know, we are distinguishing between if a facility, for example, is already open and staff are already present. That is very different than if someone wants to rent a space, have an event that where staff need to be present, and that will mean overtime costs for staff to be present at that event. We will still would want to recoup those costs. Of course, organizations still have to do insurance and business license, other fees as required by the city or outside entities such as food permits. The types of projects or events that we are considering ineligible are listed here. So if an organization is based outside of Richmond, but is looking for a fee waiver, we would normally say no to that unless there is a true benefit, a demonstrated benefit that to Richmond residents, primary Richmond residents. Also, if they are raising money for their own organization, but they don't want to pay us for the use of a facility, we would say no to that. And there's a number of other events here that we would recommend be ineligible for fee waivers. And then also just want to point out that recreation staff is asking that events at the Richmond Auditorium and the Richmond Aquatic Center not be eligible for fee waivers. Those are, we have a lot of requests for those facilities, and we can bring in good revenue for use of those facilities. And then also, of course, if an event is going to conflict with an already scheduled City of Richmond event, we would not authorize a fee waiver for that event. Next slide. In the policy, the draft policy, there are different criteria, and we have additional language around each of these different criteria so that people understand how is it that we are going to make a determination internally about if we should approve a fee waiver. So we're looking at the organizational structure and experience. So if they're asking to do a certain event, do they have experience doing that? Can they give us information about their organization? Have they submitted a complete application? Are they in compliance with all of the criteria that we put in place in the application? We want them to describe the event and make sure that it is a true community benefit. Is it really benefiting the Richmond community? And then we also want to look at resources and budget. So for us, it's about, is this creating a hardship for your organization to have to pay this fee to be able to do this program? So we want to get more information from organizations about what are their resources look like, and if we feel like there is a good fit for us to provide a fee waiver and it makes sense for us financially as well as the organization. Next slide. Here is the proposed schedule. And so recreation staff is asking for a good amount of leeway, a good amount of lead time in between when an application is due to when the event starts. So that things aren't necessarily coming in always at a rolling basis. And staff can really concentrate and focus on making sure that we have enough time to be able to review applications for fee waivers that are coming in. We can do what we need to do and have conversations internally, as well as if there are external conversations that we need to have to make sure the event, we think the event can happen. We want to have sufficient time to be able to do that, and then provide sufficient time for the organization to be able to know that their request was either approved or denied. And if it was approved, they need time to be able to promote that event and make sure they can do what they need to do. If it's denied, then they have time to maybe figure out a different venue or raise funding to be able to cover the cost. So this is the recommendation for the schedule, where it's based on quarters, and applications are due at a certain time if you want to have an event and within that quarter. And we will let you know by a certain date if you're having an event within that quarter. And once again, that helps for planning purposes. And we are hoping that organizations can plan ahead for their events. Next slide. So with this, there will be an application. There wasn't a draft application as part of this packet, but here are the components of it. And I spoke to those in terms of the criteria, and they would align. So information about the organization and the type. So just basic background information. Also asking a lot of information about the event to make sure, once again, it is a community benefit, and asking information about why there is a need for a fee waiver request. And that gets to financial hardship and making sure that it meets the needs of our community. Next slide. So in terms of procedure, we would have an application and a policy that would be approved by council. It would be posted on our website. We would make sure organizations knew that there was this opportunity available to them if they so needed it. Organizations could submit the application with required documentation. And then based on the criteria that was provided in the policy, we would internally, there would be an internal city panel, and we are recommending staff from finance, maybe city manager's office, as well as recreation staff to get together to be able to review the request and make a recommendation that would come to the deputy director, and the deputy director would be part of that panel for recreation, and then come to me as the interim director for library and community services to make a final decision. Once that decision was made, organizations would have to submit other required documents, and sometimes that might include a special event permit. And then they would do their great event. And so what we would ask at the end of that event is a simple report back to us about how did the event go? What were some highlights, maybe some pictures of the event? How many, what was a participant count, so that we can keep track and be able to report that information back to City Council on at least a quarterly basis. And we do want to state that if organizations don't abide by the rules set forth in the policy, and that could be that they cancel at the last minute and they haven't given us sufficient time, because we don't want to have organizations hogging space and not doing an event, especially if they're not being charged for that. But if they fail to do anything listed, that they would not be eligible for a waiver for a 12-month period. Next slide. So that goes through all of the different components of the fee waiver policy. And so at the end of the presentation, we're going to quickly go through the partnership policy. These are the components that we want feedback on, and seeing if there's questions, comments, or concerns. Next slide, please. Partnership policy. Next slide. So the purpose of this partnership policy is to establish policies, guidelines, and procedures that govern how partnerships between recreation and external entities are evaluated, created, and managed. And we know the importance of our great partnerships that we have with the city, within the city of Richmond. And we want to make sure those are memorialized, and that organizations feel like they are benefiting, we are benefiting as the city of Richmond, and ultimately our residents are benefiting and are getting great service and extra support. So this policy will allow recreation to be proactive rather than reactive when presented with a partnership opportunity. It also sets a level playing field for all potential partners, so that organizations can understand in advance the parameters and selection criteria for proposed partnerships. Next slide, please. These are the types of examples of categories of organizations or entities that could apply. to be partners with the city of Richmond. So it could be from individuals who want to partner with us. Maybe they want to give us money to do really wonderful things. And we can have that conversation with them. It also could be community-based organizations. And we have some that we have had conversations at council about. And also it could be governmental entities where we want to have a really strong partnership that is established and that we can go back to and reference. Next slide. There's a lot here, but there's some required conditions that we want to make sure are in place to be able to enter into partnerships. Some examples that what they want to do aligns with the mission of recreation, but also the city. They have complied with all applicable policies, whether they are internal City of Richmond policies or external county, state policies. We want to make sure the organization can do the work that they're saying they can do. And so whether that's providing a program, whether that's providing a service, whether that's adopting a spot in one of our parks, whatever that looks like, we want to make sure that they can do that work on behalf of our Richmond residents. We want to provide programs that complement our efforts and are not in direct competition. We want organizations to make sure that they are demonstrating a community benefit and are serving Richmond residents. And so there's just a number of things here that we want to make sure are in place. Next slide. So partnership expectations. So while we may be providing spaces for organizations to host things on a longer term process, we want to make sure that we also are really clear about the expectations that we have of our partners. So some examples here are that there is, funding for programs or projects that are being proposed. I have not seen a partnership policy yet that the city of Richmond has entered into where an organization hasn't provided something, whether that's grants, funding for events or programs or infrastructure, or they have paid some fee. It may be a reduced fee, but something. And so we want to make sure we can have those conversations. Also, in-kind services and goods are really important. There may be opportunities for support and maintenance of facilities, and we've seen that happen already. And we're really thankful for those partnerships that already exist. We would love for organizations to volunteer their time and possibly do cleanups of these spaces, at least on a quarterly timeline. And so looking forward to some of that. They may table at City of Richmond events. So come out and share about their great program at some of our events. And then just making sure that they meet City of Richmond and other policies. Next slide. So there's a process that we are proposing in this draft policy. So there are some organizations right now that we know of that we want to enter into official partnership policies with. They have been existing partners, but we don't have anything that is established. So we would want to do that. But for those, but we also want to make sure there's that level playing field. And so at some point, we would love the opportunity to be able to put the application for partnerships on through our City of Richmond bids online system, or we as recreation staff could request partners. So maybe we realize that we have a gap in services. We don't have what we need. We don't have the resources or the staff or the expertise to provide a certain type of program or project. Maybe we don't have the resources to maintain a certain facility, such as a park space or adopt a spot. And so we want to make a call out to organizations to say, here's a need and can you help us fill it? So that's a way in which we could have a level playing field and notify organizations of opportunities for partnership. There would be a template or an outline for organizations to fill out to give us information about what it is they could provide and how they could provide those services on behalf of Richmond residents or to Richmond residents. There would be an internal and external conversations to review those applications. And then if we think that it's a good fit, then there would be a discussion around developing an agreement. And part of that discussion would be looking at costs. Next slide. So there is a draft application, proposed draft application attached to the partnership policy. And this outlines some of those components of that application. So general background information about the organization, description of the proposal or summary of the proposal. What is it that they are asking to do? How are they going to benefit the city of Richmond and our residents? And then there's just some guiding questions to help them think about the benefit. Next slide. So here are all the components that are included in the partnership policy, and we are looking for feedback on any and all of these components. Next slide. So in terms of next steps, we are here tonight before you to get feedback on both of these draft policies. We cannot attest to the fact that we have thought of everything, but we will do our best to answer any questions. And we realize that there may be components that we need to incorporate, things that we want to take out. So we really look forward to feedback from both council members as well as community. And we will continue to have discussions with City of Richmond departments. Want to bring this to our senior staff, the department head meeting, see if there's feedback there. There may be an opportunity for us to expand both of these policies. So it's not just about recreation related facilities or park facilities and waiver of recreation related fees, but it can be bigger and broader than that. And so it can encompass other departments and other fees. So we want to take a look at that. We will provide opportunities for community feedback. Information will be posted on our website, making sure our community includes stakeholders, partners, community-based organizations, governmental entities that may want to partner with us. We want to bring this to our Park and Rec Commission at their first meeting in April, and then collectively take all that input and incorporate it into the draft fee waiver policy and partnership policy, and then bring that back hopefully to City Council by the study session meeting in April for feedback or for final approval and adoption. And next slide. Reminding all of what the recommended action is. It's not to take action tonight, but it's to discuss both of these policies and to provide us any direction or feedback on next steps prior to policy adoption and later in April. And with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you so much for your time and letting me go through both of those policies tonight. And once again, I have Rajana and Hope available to answer specific questions also.
Questions and comments from council members. I see Councilmember Willis, Johnson, and Jimenez. So go ahead, Councilmember Willis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks for the very thorough, summarized, and informative presentation, LaShonda. You did a great job. Thank you. I'm using just the job that I work with at a nonprofit for 10 years as an example. So maybe if you can help clarify, I'm only going to ask 3 questions because honestly, that's a lot to dive into. But one of the things is in the past, like I've organized town hall meetings back in 2015 at our Nevin Community Center where we talked about housing issues. And sometimes we would have done like a homeowners clinic where folks can meet with a counselor and get legal advice or counseling on their mortgage situation. Or we talked about the issue of rent control and just cause for eviction. Now, just in that scenario, would that nonprofit be able to qualify for a fee waiver if they were using one of our facilities for that type of town hall event?
Me, I mean, we would have to see the application and go through our process, but based on what I'm hearing you say, and to me, that sounds like a community benefit. It's for a very specific time. It's for a specific facility. So it's temporary or one-time event. I can see that being a very, that is an eligible use for requesting a fee waiver. So I definitely see that as falling into that category.
Okay, thank you. And this probably is one of the more dumber questions, but say like a nonprofit organization is statewide, but they do have a office that operates in Richmond, then because they have an office that operates in Richmond, and if the application's on the up and up, they could potentially qualify for a fee waiver?
Yes, so I would say yes to that. And the reason is we have, through our various grant programs that we have here in the city of Richmond, we really often look at kind of Richmond serving. So, and we also look at those nationwide organizations that have facilities or offices in Richmond, and to us, that is Richmond based for that office, because then they're providing services from that location to the community. So we would consider that to be under the eligible category.
Okay, actually, two more quick questions, I promise, and then I'll be quiet. Let's say, for instance, so I guess how would a nonprofit be able to identify hardship? Because, for instance, I think still technically Kaiser is considered a nonprofit. I doubt they have any hardship, but let's say for argument's sake, they wanted to use one of our facilities and they wanted to apply for a fee waiver under the community resident benefit clause, but they're clearly not necessarily struggling. Would somebody like that with that level of scope of income, like Kaiser, or they're not as big, but Lifelong Brookside, what if they wanted to apply for a community benefit, but apply for a fee waiver?
That is a really great question, and something I think we need to delve into a little more in our application to make sure we're asking the right questions. So I'm not going to be able to 100% answer your question tonight, but you're giving us some food for thought to make sure it's clear enough for us to understand and have some really clear criteria around hardships. And so we will have to create the right questions to help us get at that. So we'll want to know, what is your organizational budget?
Yeah.
Right. So that's one piece of it. And then how much we're going to ask organizations to submit a facility request, so we know what the cost is of that event. And so we need to look at both of those pieces. And so that's not just the only component, that's a piece of it to help us make a determination if a fee waiver is going to be granted. So hardship is a piece, but it's also about what is the community benefit? How many people are going to be touched or reached or are helped by you providing this event? Are you filling a gap that the city of Richmond can't provide? So there's a lot of components to that. And our hope is also that organizations like Kaiser's, like some of our larger nonprofit organizations, they have not historically asked for fee waivers. And we're hoping that organizations are really thoughtful and understand what the purpose is behind this policy, that it does cost us as Richmond, as the city of Richmond, to provide services and to maintain facilities. And so we're hoping that people don't just try and get over on us, right? But they really are trying to work together to provide really great benefits. So all of that to say, we'll try and ask the right questions to help us get at hardship, but understanding that that's just one piece of a determining factor or criteria to help us make a decision about fee waivers.
Yeah, duality, expect the best and worst case scenario when dealing with individuals sometimes. I guess my final question is I know RPA in the past, especially in 2017, they have hosted like a immigration clinic for folks to know their rights. And that one was actually in partnership with the city, but we're not necessarily a nonprofit, more like just an association. But they organized an event that didn't necessarily have anything to do with politics, but it did have something to do with providing like legal advice to undocumented community members because of the threats of that folks were going to come in and separate families. For groups that don't necessarily have a nonprofit status, but they're established and known more as an association, would they be able to have a chance to apply for a fee waiver, or would they not be able to because of the not being technically a nonprofit?
That's a really great question too. And as I'm looking at our definitions and how we have what we have included under the different categories right now, if an organization that wasn't a 501c3 and did not partner with a city of Richmond department, right now, the answer would be no. But that is something for us to think about and consider. And if we want to change any of the language around nonprofit organizations to allow organizations like those to be able to fit into one of our categories.
Okay, great. Well, I do, if there's a chance to talk one-on-one about this, because I do have a few more questions, but I'll stop right there. And thank you again for the presentation. And I'm actually excited to move forward on it.
Thank you. I'm always happy to have conversations.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Director White, for that fantastic presentation. And I'm sure the nonprofits, MBOs, CBOs, and WCCUSD is very happy to hear about these programs coming forth. But I did have 3 questions. The first 2 are a multi-part question. So please let me know if you need me to repeat any of it. I mean, you mentioned that, in the setup of your presentation, you mentioned that, there's a cost of operations. And I was just wondering, how will we continue to cover the cost of operations with these fee waivers? For instance, will there be increases on the events that don't qualify for fee waivers to cover that operational cost? Or will there be a limited number of waivers per quarter or calendar year? That's the first question.
All right. So cost of operations, yes, it does cost. It costs us to maintain our facilities. It costs to cover staff costs, to be able to provide programs and services. And it will be that if we provide fee waivers, as part of partnership policies, and continue to do that, that City Council will just have to understand that we're going to have less revenue. And right now, as you saw from the slide, with how much we could have received, how much we provided in discounts or fee waivers, and how much we actually collected, there was, hundreds of thousands of dollars that never made it to the city of Richmond, but that allowed organizations to provide really great programs and services to Richmond residents. So it's just going to have to be a decision that City Council is making in terms of knowing that we are just not going to get the revenue that's going to go to the general fund to help us do other services that we need to do. So that's a piece of it, which is why we want to make sure this policy is approved by City Council, and we're not making one-off decisions to do fee waivers. So in terms of, are we going to increase the cost for other events or programs that don't receive fee waivers? No. And the reason is because the fees will be established by the master fee schedule. So once City Council, we're going to bring there's some slight updates that need to happen to the recreation and park facility fees. We're going to bring that in April.
I'm sorry, Director White, but there seems to be some feedback on someone's end. I'm not sure, but it seems to be someone who's unmuted. It's kind of cutting into your speech. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. So our fees will be set by the master fee schedule. And that is how we determine how we charge fees, how much we charge, who we charge them to. And so once the council approves the master fee schedule, that's our fees. And then our discounts will be based on the established master fee schedule fees. And then limited number of waivers. We have talked about that internally and would love feedback if that is a decision. If we want to max out all of the fee waivers that we are able to provide annually versus per organization. Right now, we're recommending no more than $3,000 per organization within a year, 12-month period, but we could do it in different ways. And so we definitely look forward to that, any feedback or comments on that component of it.
Okay, and I'll be sure to provide that. I just wanted to get in this next multi-part question around partnership policy. Will organizations who've already, received city grants or, grantees be automatically eligible for partnership policy, or will there be an additional process for them to go through?
So thinking about it, and I, of course, encourage Rajana, Shasa, Hope, or anyone else who's been part of this to jump in and share. But there are some existing organizations that we have had MOUs with in the past, are trying or know that we need to have an established partnership policy with. We will want to enter into partnership policies with those organizations. And then in addition to that, if there is a need, if there's a gap that recreation staff sees needs to be met, then we could do a call. We could do a kind of an RFP for services. And so it can happen in multiple ways, but there definitely are a number of organizations per council direction, per conversations with council and the city manager that we will be entering into partnerships with based on our existing relationships.
Thank you so much. And my final question is just a question about process. And I was just wondering, what role will the Parks and Recs Commission play in the application evaluation process of the fee waivers?
As of right now,
Mhm. You're good. Go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
okay. As of right now, there will not be a role for the Park and Rec Commission on either the partnership policy or the fee waiver policy. So what we have allowed it to be a internal City of Richmond process, but we can go to the Rec and Park Commission to provide information in the same way, or updates in the same way that we would do that to City Council, to let them know, here are the partnerships, here are the fee waivers, and just, like I said, provide that update. So as of right now, there is no established role for the Rec and Park Commission.
I think that would be beautiful. The Parks and Rec Commission, those are community folks who volunteered. I mean, they probably have, a really great insight on some of those applicants. And so, most definitely want to utilize some of the established resources that we have, human resources that we have here in the city of Richmond. But no, thank you so much for answering those questions. And I'll be sure to put a little bit more brain power into the thought of annual or per organization fee waiver limits and get back to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Director White.
And I don't know if Rajana or Shasa, saw you both come. Did you have anything to add for anything I've said so far? Any clarification?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is Rajana Maharaj, Deputy Director for Community Services Recreation. Actually, Lashonda, you covered everything. You answered the questions exactly like I had answers for. I appreciate that. So if there's anything else I can be of support, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Rajana. Thank you, Shasa.
Councilmember Jimenez.
Well, thank you, Roshanda, and thank you, Chasa, for working with me on this. I was the one saying we need this, and you had been really taking this on, and thank you for meeting with me, and thank you for listening to some of the ideas. I wanted to make a comment, and then I ask one question. And I think the idea is also that we as a city, we are not just in the way of functioning as a business. We are here to serve our community. And sometimes looking at this at how much it costs, how much is giving, but it's missing the fact that many of these organizations that are partnering and are doing a lot of work are bringing services into the community that can be monetized in terms of how much benefit that will bring. So I just want people to understand that it's not just about how much it's going to cost and how much the city is going to receive, because this is the transactional way of engaging with the community, and we are here to have a transformative way of engaging with the community, and this is what this Wayfeed and the MOU and the partnership is about. It's about how we start partnering with organizations that are bringing services to the community, that are here doing that, and we can support that, lift at that, and start filling the gaps, because they are here for a reason, and they are here because they are filling some gaps that we are not feeling fulfilled, like all the services. So I glad that this is looking at that in that way as well. So my question to you is, I see that this fee waiver is for events, but for instance, I am just putting an example. Richmond Soul is an organization that rent a field, not for one time, but just for a season, like the soccer season, or so. If this fee waiver will apply to them and organization and programs like that, that is not just one time, but it's just over a period of time. And then I will have another question and I'm finished.
So I think it will depend. So I think The fee waiver policy is for organizations that are asking for one-time events or temporary uses. We haven't defined temporary, but that we would have to know a little bit more about, and I don't know off the top of my head how long the soccer season or football season is, right? So we would have that conversation to see, is it a fee waiver, or do we need to enter into a partnership policy with Richmond Soul or another organization? And it might be that because it's seasonal and it's annual, that a partnership policy may be a better fit. And right now, just knowing what I know, I would think a partnership policy would be a better fit for some of our sports teams that are utilizing our spaces, whether that be aquatic centers or our fields or our facilities. It could be baseball, football, soccer, a number of things. So I can see that being more of a partnership policy, actually.
Yeah, so and a combination, because it's like also fee waiver and partnership.
And yes, and fee waivers can be part of a partnership policy, right? So as we discuss with the organization, it might be that the organization is providing a service or has the type of budget that allows us to say, you know what, okay, this needs to be 100% fee waiver. But I've also seen ones in the past where organizations have paid something to be able to utilize our fields, our aquatic centers, our facilities. It's at a hugely discounted rate, but they still are paying. And so there's other components and things that they're providing back to us as a city of Richmond, whether that be going after grants together, doing lots of in-kind services, cleanup events, whatever. So it's not either or, but partnership policies can have a fee waiver component embedded in them.
Okay. Yeah, and just to finish, I think you answered my second question, and you mentioned something about how is also counting what the community can be done. Like the community has some like cleaning at the park or cleaning at the space, so it's not up to the city. So that and I think like the community is willing and ready to do that. So I'm glad that we are moving forward with this. I have enjoyed working with you and Shasa with this. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Councilmember McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you. I just have a couple of questions. First of all, thank you, LaShonda. Great presentation. And everyone, Shasa and Ranjana, for working on this. Really an extensive couple of sets of policies that you've put together. Really appreciate it. So one of my questions is, it kind of follows up on the fields question. I recall us having I think it was an MOU or some kind of a joint partnership with the school district for use of parks and facilities and fields. So does this replace that policy, or did that policy expire or something? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, and Rajana can probably give a better update on where we are with the joint use agreement between the city and the school district. So the school district has joint use agreements with every city within its jurisdiction, and they're all the same. And really, to me, what that joint use agreement does is it really just provides a priority of service, a priority of access. It outlines that. So it says that for district facilities, district is first, and then Richmond, and then organizations. And then for Richmond, it says we're first for our own facilities, and then the district, and then or the organizations. But then it then references the fact that the city and the district need to utilize the other entities' existing process to be able to access space. So we would still redirect them back to our either partnership policy, fee waiver policy. I don't see the district asking for a fee waiver. I don't believe they have in the past, but for smaller events, but we would have them go through the process that is already established to be able to utilize space. But Rajan, I don't know if you have anything to add about the joint use agreement.
Thank you, LaShonda. Actually, we are working with the district in renewing the agreement. We were asked to add Judge Carroll Park and Washington School to the list of facilities. So we did that. So at the moment, the agreement is with the school district, and we are waiting to receive somewhat of an approved version from them so we can bring it to the city council for your approval.
Okay, thanks. So my other question is, what if, well, it's kind of a two-part question. What if a neighborhood council wants to apply for a waiver? Can they? And the second part is, how about an individual? And I mean, I know there are individuals who have held annual, events. I know someone in my district who organizes an annual event. Would she need to have a organization sponsor her in order to get a waiver? How would that work?
I'm going to answer about individuals, and I'm going to let Rajana talk about what we already have available to neighborhood councils. So for individuals, and this is also for organizations that don't have 501c3 tax status. Mm-hmm. If that is the case, if an individual organization that doesn't have that status wants to apply for a fee waiver, and based on our current categories, it says you have to have 501c3 tax status, or you need to partner with our City of Richmond department, those individuals or organizations could have the opportunity to do either of those things. So they could go find a nonprofit organization that has 501c3 tax status and partner with them to then apply for the fee waiver. Or they could go and contact the City of Richmond department and say, can we work together to do this great event? So right now, those are the two methods, or avenues that organizations or individuals could access to be able to still be eligible for a fee waiver.
Okay, great.
And then Rajana, if you want to share about neighborhood councils.
Sure. So our current comprehensive fee policy and guidelines that already has language that indicates that neighborhood council meetings, their monthly meetings, are free of charge, and every neighborhood gets one freebie per year. So maybe like North and East organizes a picnic near Burke Park, or someone else does something else. So those things are already part of our document. And if there's anything additional on top of that, then like LaShonda indicated, that process has to be done differently.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. And again, thank you for all your work on this.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Martinez, go ahead.
Thank you. And thanks to the both of you for the fantastic work that you've done. Along the lines that Claudia was going on in terms of the city actually being here to serve the community, I was wondering, and we were also talking about the in-kind services and the benefit to the community. There's some organizations in the city of Richmond that cater specifically to lower income people of color. And then there's other organizations that cater to a wide variety of people of various income levels. So I was wondering whether or not the fact that certain groups might cater specifically to lower income would be a factor that would be considered.
Yes. So in what we're going to get to in the policy, as well as in the application, and the questions that organizations are answering for us to help make a determination, and as part of the criteria, we are looking at this work through an equity lens, right? We're looking at our decision to be able to provide fee waivers, enter into partnerships based on, as a component of what it is organizations are doing, who are they serving? And like I said, looking at that through the lens of both race equity, but also health and all policies, those two lenses that council has directed us to kind of look at our work through. So we definitely will take those things into consideration.
Fantastic. And one other comment question. It seems only logical that groups that have seasons or that use the facilities on a long term, such as pickleball or tennis or soccer or baseball, they should all be partnerships with fee waivers as one of the components. So that would be one of my requests.
Thank you. And noted.
Any other questions or comments from council members? Okay, before we go to public speakers, here are mine. I learned a long time ago that Richmond is in sort of a unique situation. I think when LaShonda first started showing her slides, she mentioned that charging for community facilities was best practices, right? Wasn't that on your slide?
Yes, sir.
Well, most cities actually do this, and they look at the charges for these facilities as almost like an enterprise fund or a revenue source, and they derive quite a bit of revenue from it. And they're able to do that for a couple of reasons. One of them is that almost every city in the Bay Area is wealthier, some of them far wealthier than Richmond. So the people who use the facilities are able to afford to pay for them, and it's not an issue. It doesn't become an issue. And the other thing unique about Richmond is that we're just organized in a different way. I don't think there's a city our size in the Bay Area that has a whole bunch of neighborhood councils, a lot of whom meet in city facilities. And I don't think there's another city our size in the Bay Area that has the number of nonprofits serving low-income communities. So we've always been in a situation where the recreation department gets squeezed between a rock and a hard place. The city management wants them to develop a revenue stream to pay for the upkeep of sports fields and facilities and that kind of thing. But there's also a huge pressure on them to grant fee waivers and so forth for these things. And this has always been a tug of war in the city. And as you can see from the statistics that LaShonda provided, because of existing arrangements that involve fee waivers and so forth, the city of Richmond really doesn't make any money off these facilities. I mean, we're talking about, starting back in 2017, 18, 19, the city was making $25,000 a year or something like that. So we have a much different profile than most cities have. And I think it's always been a bit of a rub for me. For instance, when a neighborhood council meets and they want to use a community center and the city wants to charge them literally hundreds of dollars for the community center, and that's supposed to pay for somebody to come out and unlock it and lock it up and clean it up and that kind of thing. And the neighborhood councils feel like, look, we're doing a service for the city. We're providing for community involvement, and yet the city wants to charge us for it. Same way with sports fields. We have a lot of nonprofits that provide healthy sports activities, primarily for youth. And in the past, the city has wanted to charge them for uses of the field. So I think we're going absolutely in the right direction. I think this is something that's long overdue. And I think that the city has to stop looking at these facilities as profit centers and more of an opportunity to enter into partnerships to get things that the community needs. And I guess another way the city's unique, and it's all a part of our demographic and wealth profile and that kind of thing, is that in a lot of other cities, these community facilities they're in big demand and people will pay big bucks to use them. In a lot of cities, people will rent a community center to have a wedding and a reception. I don't know that that's ever happened in Richmond. You guys ever know where it's happened, Ranjana?
Yes, we've held weddings at the Richmond Recreation Complex, a lot of different types of events at community centers, at the Nevin Community Center, at BTA, depending upon what size of event people are requesting to host. So community centers do serve all types of events.
that's great. I wasn't aware of it. I always said Richmond can claim that it's got it made when people start renting community centers for weddings. So maybe we're way ahead of that. But I think it's important to have this policy. I think it's important that it be consistently applied, and that it be rational. And I think you're going in the right direction. I appreciate all the hard work you've done. And of course, the success of it is really in the implementation, and whether you're actually consistent and fair. I will say that I'm a little bit fearful of this discussion about political parties using community facilities with a fee waiver because they're providing a service to the community. I think that's a very dangerous place to go, and I think you have to be careful about that. So that's my comments. I think you're on the right track, and I hope that this becomes successful. So I assume we have some public speakers.
Yes, we do.
We currently have 5 speakers. They are Don Gosney, Lorena Gonzalez, Diego Garcia, Sean Dunning, Mark Wassberg, and Norma. Don, you may begin. Don?
Sorry. As we should expect, Ms. White has provided us with a very thorough and well thought out proposal. She's deserving of our thanks. She certainly has mine. As a city employee, though, I suspect that there may be components of this policy that she may not feel comfortable bringing up. The vast majority of these fee waiver requests are never brought before the public, so we're ignorant of them. What we do see, though, is at these council meetings where individual members of the council have a pet project that wants a freebie from the city in the form of a building, an auditorium, or a park to host their event. We also see these fellow council members want to go along with their friends and allies on the council and feel free to use taxpayer dollars to support their pet projects. So they'll vote to support a motion to take care of their friends and allies, because sooner or later, they may expect a quid pro quo when they need a waiver. I said, how should these be addressed in this policy? Should there be any controls, or should council members be allowed to choose city facilities paid for out of the pockets of the taxpayers to take care of their pet projects and friends? If the public has controls placed on them, why shouldn't the council members also be required to live under those same controls? Touching on something that Councilmember Willis brought up, just a few months ago, there was a career fair held at Nickel Park, but it was not hosted by a nonprofit. It had the potential to have a great benefit to the community, but if I understand from your response to Councilmember Willis, the fee waiver would not be possible. As to the same might be applied, for instance, the Richmond Heights Neighborhood Council often uses Tiller Park for their National Night Out gathering. And since there was really no budget for these events, they certainly would not be able to pay any kind of fee charged by the city. If they have some other event plus the National Night Out event, would they need to pass the hat or hold a car wash to fund that second event? It would be nice for there to be a provision to consider such uses of city properties. Lastly, what might be the difference between a bunch of neighbors gathering to play softball at Nickel Park or the Soulful Sunday softball people hosting a game? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lorena Gonzalez. You may begin.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to say that I am in support of this. I think LaShonda White and the rest of the staff provided a very detailed presentation. I think it's great to include the fee waivers as part of the partnerships for those organizations and nonprofit organizations that have annual and continuous events. The proposal seems structured. There's guidelines. There's very detailed who qualifies, who doesn't, for what reasons. And I think that that's important to know up front to prevent what the previous caller talked about, favoritism or things like that happening, so that the policy is applied consistently and equitably across organizations that support. And speaking as a Richmond resident, as a mom, as a Richmond scholar, Richmond Promise mother, and someone who started in nonprofits, I can tell you that for cities such as Richmond, that nonprofits fill the void of what cities cannot do. And you have people who are invested in providing opportunities and places of crime prevention for the youth and for the community that the city does not have the reins to do. We should not be an under-resourced city with companies like Kaiser and Chevron and BART here that can supplement the fee revenues that might be lost with these fee waivers for the city. And so I think that investing in our community organizations and supporting them to do the work that cities cannot do by themselves and to do it in partnership is the right direction for sure. We need to invest in our youth. Investing in our youth and in our community orgs will provide us with savings long-term, whether it's crime prevention, whether it's communities gathering and providing support to each other, and in support of fee waivers for nonprofits in the city of Richmond.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Diego Garcia. Diego, you may begin.
Hello, hear me?
Yes.
Well, first of all, Lashonda White, it was a very impressive presentation. I really thank you for that. And everyone else who has put their sense into this. This is long overdue. I remember back in 2008, when we did have a partnership policy with the city of Richmond, our program, Richmond Soul, was serving over 450 children, and which was 99% of those children were Richmond residents. However, when that policy changed, the fees for the fields were, obviously they were lower than other cities like Lathrop, based on the presentation, which we could never compare to them. The fees went up, although they were still lower. We had to raise our fees. At the beginning, our fees were about $80 to $100. Now, because of the fees are higher than before, our fees are now $250 just to keep our registration and our fees to be able to provide service for our kids here in the city of Richmond. With our budget, we have 100% of those fees goes out to make sure that the program is running, and they cover the league registration, insurance, referees, and of course, more than half of our budget goes to parks. Our expenses are between $7,000 to $9,000 per season to be able to provide a service that, you know, with all honesty, the city of Richmond should be providing these services for our residents. There are two organized programs in Richmond that serve 90% of those registrations or children are from Richmond. So I'm very glad that we have this partnership going, and hopefully I can be involved, and other people who are serving the Richmond residents, having, you know, different types of sports, be involved in this process, because we're pretty much—
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is Sean Dunning.
Hi, good evening. This is Sean Dunning. I'm a Richmond resident, and I'm really passionate about serving the community, and frankly, any organization that truly, genuinely is trying to serve the entire community of Richmond. And it seems to me that, first of all, I love the idea of streamlining and making it easier, making our public spaces more accessible to all. And I think along those lines, it would behoove us to consider what would actually make it easier. Maybe that's less red tape and not more. And so there's kind of a couple different angles to look at here, but I think, building on the food for thought provided by Councilmember Willis and Martinez and Jimenez and others, I think we've got a bit of a slippery slope or can of worms, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to what's political and what's not. Because I think we have to consider that many nonprofits and or associations are certainly inextricably linked to politics. And so if we're going to have that political ineligibility clause, then it should be all or nothing, it seems like. So for example, in the specific policy or proposed policy around who would be ineligible, it indicates elected officials for the purpose of an election campaign. But who's to define whether they're there for the purpose of campaigning or whether they're there for the purpose of supporting this event that is open to all? Whereas someone who's not currently in office, just by virtue of being someone who is seeking office, would be ineligible. So that's not quite fair and open to all. And I think it'd be worth looking at that. And maybe the simplest thing to do is just remove the word politics from it and simply define this as any event that is truly, genuinely open to all residents of Richmond for the benefit of all residents of Richmond should be waived. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Wassberg. Mark, you may begin.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes.
I think this stuff should be free because actually we're paying twice. If we have to pay to rent a hall, we're paying twice because actually it's our taxpayers' money who's funding the city it's from state and federal money, right? So in other words, if I rent a hall, I'm going to have to pay, so I'll be paying twice. Even though if I rent a hall, I don't care if it's political or not. That's my right. If I want to rent a hall, they have a political event, I'm paying for it, so I have the right to do it. But overall, it should be free for the people because they are paying their taxes. And actually, under the constitutional law, the city government, no matter federal, state, or city, cannot make a profit because we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same laws of the Constitution. I guess you people forgot about that. So I should declare it to be free. If a person wants to go ahead and have an event, he fills out the application, and if he requires, if it's everything's on the up and up, then he should be able to have an event. Period. So what's the big stink about it? It's no big deal. So you put me as mayor, I will sign an executive order saying that the people don't have to pay. We already paid for it, stupid, just like AC Transit. AC Transit was free for a while, right? So nobody was complaining. Nobody wasn't losing no money. They were still getting paid. And then, okay, we got to pay again. So actually, you're paying twice because sometimes, bus driver will let you ride free. If you're short, he may let you slide for $1 or whatever because I ride the bus every day. So like I said, you people make me mayor, it'll be free. I yield my time.
Our next speaker is Norma, and can you please state your complete name for the record? Norma, please unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Norma. I'm a parent that have young kids that are U.S. citizens. I haven't heard this RPA talk about the 20-year war that the U.S. is in, how to prepare for our Richmond youth, young people coming back from the war. I'm hearing it all on the news. And I wanted to come back and reclaim their property. Anything that they have, if you're a U.S. citizen, step in front. And like I said, it makes me, I get so upset to see that a lot of our youth who are fighting this war to save other people's country lost their property through rent control just cause. It's time for this Richmond to step up, and RPA, and the reason why you have so many children are U.S. citizens fighting a 20-year war. Now, you should be ashamed of yourself and Dimless. I mean, you didn't stick up for us. You didn't talk about the 20-year war, or either you're a Melvin, and this is just pathetic. And also, Gail, how could you do this to these young people who's fighting to keep you safe? That's all I have to say.
Our next speaker is with a description of El Cerrito. Please state your name for the record. Person with the name described as El Cerrito. Okay,
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, my name is Ilham. I'm a resident of El Cerrito. And actually, I'm not sure if I don't have any comment about today's discussion, but where I live on Central Avenue, which is a border of the property 5620 Central Avenue, which is Richmond. So this is a vacant lot. I understand there is some kind of building or project that will be maybe will happen there. Basically, this lot, there is a car, an abandoned car there. Nobody cared to pick it up. There is some activity going there. There is trash piling up. There is debris. So when there is wind, the debris goes everywhere, including El Cerrito properties, the neighboring properties. I know for a fact somebody submitted an online form to the city of to the city of Richmond to take care of it. I believe it's been a week or 10 days, but nobody went there. So I'm hoping by coming here, somebody from Richmond takes care of this property or go to the property owner to take care of it, because it's becoming a nuisance and disturbance to the neighbors from Richmond and El Cerrito. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think everybody on the council and the public speakers have covered this except Councilmember Bates, so let's give him a chance. Then we're gonna
Excuse me,
walk,
I'm sorry, Mayor. There is one more speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
The speaker is Rodney Brown. Rodney, you may begin.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, board. I'm sorry. Good evening, Dias, everybody. Rodney Alamo Brown, Richmond native. I want to speak about a couple things, and one being the naming of Willie Mays Field. I wasn't privy to the information until after the information was put out there. And don't get me wrong, I'm not mad or anything. I'm just kind of a little disappointed on how it happened. I know there's a process that goes through the Richmond Parks and Recreation for these things to happen, but I thought it could have been somebody like Pumpsy Green who could have been named in terms of that field being named after, based on him being the first Black player for the Boston Red Sox. And not just that, he went to El Cerrito High School. Trust me, Willie Mays is not a bad idea. I agree. I understand. Mays was around in the 50s and 60s. We haven't seen Mays based on his illness or him getting old, really conjuring in the city of Richmond. So we really haven't seen him there. Another thing would be Soulful Softball Sunday would love to be a part of that affair that's going to go on. When we do our events at the park, we decorate the park really nicely and make it inviting for folks to come. And we really want to showcase Richmond in a wonderful light. And it takes a lot of hard work to do so. I know a few of you guys have been, Tom Butt have been to the affair a few times and whatnot, but I haven't really seen a lot of you guys from the city council there at the park. I also wanted to speak about the fees. I think the fees should be waived. I mean, if it's something that's going to illustrate and show Richmond in a great light, I think folks shouldn't have to pay, especially if it's reducing a lot of crime and other lascivious activities that goes on within the confines of our city. I think it's a wonderful thing to reduce the fees and let folk enjoy the parks. I mean, at least get out and have some fun, especially of what we've been dealing with in the past 2 years with the pandemic. So let's invite folks back into the fold and let them enjoy themselves at our wonderful parks. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was our last public speaker.
Okay, Councilmember Bates, go ahead.
Well, thank you. I pretty much share the expression of many of the individuals. For Rodney's concerns, we're not excluding anyone in terms of the Willie Mays. This was initiated by the Richmond Recreation Parks Commission, which they have the authority to do so, whatever. But I did want to speak about, it's important that the city become much more active and supportive of youth activities. We have two outstanding groups in the city of Richmond that far overshadows our Richmond Recreation Department. Salesian Boys and Girls Club and the Richmond PAL program. And I can remember when I was a youngster, the city of Richmond organized and provided opportunities for young people in baseball leagues, soccer, and so forth. Our recreation staff today seem to be more focused upon just providing a facility. They, I'm not sure to what extent they involved in other activities, but taking young peoples on field trips, a host of activities that even taking to baseball games. You'd be surprised that the organization like the A's and the Giants are providing free tickets. So I don't know to what extent the recreation department have resumed those kind of activities that I enjoyed as a youngster. With respects to renting a building, what we do is we charge the fee for the purpose of cleanup to a large extent. Well, why not put a deposit? Allow the individuals at the conclusion of their event, clean the building up themselves. If it's sufficient, they get reimbursed for their deposit. If it is not sufficient, you deduct whatever is necessary that staff has to go in and re-clean. It's just simple, ideas that I think can make Richmond a lot more popular. And lastly, it is true. It is Richmond taxpayers who first build and provide funds for the building. And now we want to charge them to use it. It doesn't make sense. So those are some observations that I wanted to share with my colleagues. Thank you.
Okay, this was not an action item. It was, staff was looking for feedback, and I think you got a lot of it. So I think we're down to our last item. Y. Would you read that, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Council.
Reports of officers. Reports of officers, referrals to staff, and general reports, including AB 1234 reports.
Councilmember McLaughlin.
Yes, I received an inquiry or a request from Dr. Jeff Ritterman, a former council member, former chief of cardiology at Kaiser Richmond. Apparently there's been some anti-Semitic hate crimes in Berkeley, and there's been this resurgence of the anti-hate campaign. I know Richmond has passed resolutions that have proclaimed our unity against hate. And so Dr. Ritterman suggested that we pass out posters saying that Richmond stands against hate. And Trina in the city council's office has kindly made copies of these posters. And I just want people to know, I think the city manager might include a blurb about it in the city manager's report. I know Trina sent that to the city manager's office, and they're very nice posters. You could put them in your window. It just says Richmond stands against hate. We're in unity with Berkeley, with San Francisco, with other cities all around the Bay Area. And you can pick up a copy of these posters in the city, the lobby of City Hall. So anyone who wants to pick up a Richmond Stands United Against Hate poster, please come to the lobby of City Hall and pick one up, put it in your window, and showcase your community spirit against hate.
Councilmember Bates, is your hand still up?
I just want to add to what Councilmember McLaughlin indicated. We should also have these anti-hate posters in every business. Circulate them. One, go to the 23rd Merchants group. They have meetings frequently, and they can provide it. Have the Coordinated Neighborhood Council to provide it. Those businesses who reside and operate within these neighborhoods, these coordinating neighborhood councils can very easily go and have them posted in those particular neighborhood councils business areas. So it's an excellent idea, and just add a little bit to what you indicated, Councilman.
Okay, anyone else? I don't see anybody. Anybody have any memorials this evening? I don't see any of those, so I believe it's time to adjourn. Anybody have anything else? All right, have a nice evening.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.